according to a recent study, an estimated 42% of South Africa's children have experienced some form of ill treatment. 82% have either experienced or witnessed some form of victimization. The study also indicating that 31.7% of children were murdered in the last financial year. So in light of Child Protection Week this week, we're now probing whether South Africa is doing enough to protect children from abuse. Let's bring in Shando Theron, who is the director of Theron Incorporated. Shando, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming in. I mean, the statistics are just staggering. They are just horrific. And we've seen the headlines, haven't we, over the past few weeks. Just horrific incidents of, I mean, we're saying here victimization and ill treatment. But to put it plainly, it's gruesome murders of young children that we're seeing on a very regular basis in our country.
Michelle, it is, as you say. We see the stories every week. We saw a couple of days ago a father poisoning his children. We see gang violence in the Cape Flats, and if it's not teenagers killing each other, it's young children being caught in the crossfire by stray bullets. It's actually become commonplace.
So these statistics that we're now seeing from police, over 350 young people murdered in the space of 90 days. I mean, one doesn't know what to say in the face of numbers like that.
No, you don't. And unfortunately, the problem is multifaceted. It's got to do with, I think, we need three things to stop this and to take the stats back in the right direction. We need a functioning police force, number one. We need a functioning criminal justice system. And we need to make it easier for fathers, especially unmarried fathers, to be involved in the lives of their children. Those three things is what's needed.
So yeah, and how do we fare insofar as those three things is concerned in South Africa?
I think I'm going to call a spade and not a shovel. And even the staunchest supporters of the ruling party are now starting to use the term failed state. So, and if we look at the Shando Commission, we can see why we are where we are. I don't have to rehash those reasons, but we don't have a functioning police force. We don't have a functioning criminal justice system. And once again, not because we don't have committed people in the police or committed prosecutors. There are other problems there. And there are very, very discriminatory laws against fathers, especially unmarried fathers, who want to be involved in their children's lives. Mm-hmm. So we are not faring well on any of those departments, and we need all of them to work together to actually stop the problem.
Legislative reform is what organizations like the Teddy Bear Clinic is calling for, and that's in the wake of, you know, when we find out who the accused people are in cases involving child murder, the rape of young children as well. We find that they are not first-time offenders. In many cases, some of them out on parole for similar offenses. How do we get to a stage where we are holding people responsible for gruesome crimes involving children to account so that they are never allowed to do the same thing again?
A functioning police force, a functioning criminal justice system, and fathers who are involved in their children's lives. Once again, our parole system is not functioning. As you say, repeat offenders are being let out. And people who have committed heinous crimes, they are being let out to commit the same crimes again. And no one can quite understand why this is being done or how it's being allowed to happen, but it's happening. And you and I both know if somebody breaks into a house or commits a crime against you and steals something of you, the only reason you go to the police station is so you can get a case number so you can claim for insurance. You really don't have any faith that your goods are going to be recovered or the perpetrators are going to be brought to book. It doesn't happen. So, and also we have a criminal justice system, and in many cases where it involves a child victim, the child and the perpetrator are the only witnesses to the crime. And it's the DNA that links the perpetrator to the crime. And that DNA system there's a complete backlog. We've seen enough stories in the news about the DNA being contaminated, not being dealt with properly, phenomenal backlogs. And you have to weigh that against the rights of the accused to a speedy trial. Now, if the matter continuously gets postponed because the DNA system hasn't come back or the docket hasn't been properly completed, then I don't care how good the prosecutor is. At some stage, that case is going to be dismissed.
Shahida Omar, who speaks on behalf of the Teddy Bear Clinic, echoing exactly what you're saying here. And she's talking about a week ago, the discovery of Bontle Mashiane's mutilated body, the 6-year-old going missing on the 30th of April. One of the accused in Bontle's murder is a serial offender called Colin Hlongwane, who was twice, not once, twice released on parole, once for attempted murder and another time in 2013 for murder. I mean, the police, who we had in studio here on the AM report last week, the police minister, Behi Cele, he talks about, the police going out into the field, doing the important work of gathering evidence, of arresting the perpetrators of violent crimes. But he talks about the rest of the security cluster, and I suppose the NPA as well, being the short end of the stick here, insofar as ensuring these people don't see the light of day.
I think they're all the short end of the stick, and there are many people in the top of both the systems that you were mentioning there, which shouldn't be there, which in a functioning system, based on their performance and based on the crime statistics or based on the number of convictions not happening, you cannot say that they are competent for the job. And if we look at the Zondo Commission, we also see that many, many people in top positions were placed there not for their competence, but for their party allegiance and for their allegiance to specific factions within the ruling party. And the fact that they were actually incompetent actually aids the people who are trying to commit malfeasance, because this person in a top position can protect them. And the Zondo Commission is open about that, about the scourge of cadre deployment, about the scourge of how this has collapsed systems that were previously functioning or functioning a lot better. So it's very easy for people to point fingers that this is not working, that is not working. All the systems are in crisis at the moment. And as I say, every day I think it's getting worse, because it's becoming part of even the ANC's discourse, the term failed state. And every day we are getting closer to that. And as we're getting closer to that, people are getting more and more desperate. People are getting more and more economically depressed. People are not caring anymore. It's the inability of the systems that are supposed to be protecting us are not functioning.
Shando, Theron, let me thank you for your time this morning, certainly echoing the sentiments of other organizations in the field, that what we need is a functioning justice system, certainly to ensure that perpetrators are brought to book and that we try and hone in the kinds of staggering numbers we're seeing involving violent crimes and children in our country.